Some happy, shiny faces in the audience from Rocket Space. How many of you have actually been on our campus here in San Francisco? Or actually work here, I should say. Excellent. I see Mike Gensel on the back there. Well, welcome, and thank you for giving us the opportunity here to talk a bit about fintech and the future of commerce, which is a pretty broad set of topics. We have 3 startup presentations across some, I would say, a wide variety of areas of the future of commerce, in fintech specifically, and a great expert panel. So I will go ahead and bring the panel up first, and then we'll launch into our friends for the startup presentations. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to Barclays for sponsoring this session. And our first expert panelist is the Managing Director of Mobile Banking with Barclays. Please come up, Darren Foltz. Thanks, Darren. Second, we have Bill Harris, CEO of Personal Capital. Recognized speaker, and very excited to have him on the panel today. Thank you. And finally, we have Sebastian Tavot, who is the Chief Developer Evangelist at MasterCard. And poor Sebastian, actually, I did a fireside chat with him a couple of weeks ago, so I get to drill in even deeper with him. Fintech is really interesting. You know, on our campus at Rocket Space, we have about 180 companies on our campus, and probably a good 20% of them touch in some interesting way around the themes that we're going to be talking about in this session. Whether it's around actual transactions, payments, wearables, authentication, data, privacy, and some of those ideas of what transactions and payments mean for even the average mobile company on our campus. So we're really excited to hit on some of these topics. I'm going to weave in some of the themes from our startups, and so to give them full attention and time, if you will please allow me to introduce our first startup. Billy Robbins is the Vice President of Business Development from PayNearMe. Prior to PayNearMe, he was the Vice President of Personal Finance Management Products at Wells Fargo and co-founder of the Stencil Group, which is an early market accelerator for technology startups. Billy is a competitive runner, including a repeat Boston marathoner. In his spare time, he likes to recreate Men in Blazers episodes. You can send your ravens to him at WA Robbins. Please welcome Billy Robbins.
I think the good friend of the pod, Men in Blazers joke, there may not be the intersection here, I don't know. So you went from talking, thanks very much for the introduction, Eric, and thanks for having me here today. There we go. So we went from talking about the Internet of Things and kind of the great, brave future of connected devices to talking about cash, which is going back, obviously, to the early days. So the problem that PayNearMe is solving is, you know, if you think about when originally technology rolled out in the mid-90s and the internet became a thing, there was this notion of the digital divide. And so at that point, it was connectivity of people being able to access the internet. And we've solved that problem. And so now this new digital divide is really around payments. And as brilliant and coordinated as the Apple launch was, they haven't figured out a way to stuff cash into a 6 or a 6 Plus. They haven't figured out how to stuff cash into a computer, and people shouldn't stuff cash into the mailbox, but they still do. And you think about the other startups that are going to get up here and talk, one of the challenges has been around for innovation has really been about the point of sale. And so we've done a lot of work about integrating at the point of sale. And it's also been about identity in traditional walk-up cash payments. So you think, well, cash, why does anyone who still uses cash, because we're so focused on innovating on either coast? Well, there's 28% of Americans, according to the FDIC, who either rely on cash because they don't have a bank account or they don't have access to credit on their credit card, or they just prefer to pay in cash. So you think about urban markets, you have waiters, waitresses, cabbies, bartenders, hairdressers, gardeners, et cetera, who are getting paid in cash, and if they could pay bills in cash, they would. So what PayNearMe does is runs this cash collection network so that consumers who want to pay bills in cash can do so, and they can walk into a 7-Eleven, they can walk into a 7-Eleven or a Family Dollar, Yeah, we had a sync issue on the screens. Matt, I was seeing or someone was showing your slides. Anyway, so the underbanked, although they may not have access to credit or bank accounts, have adopted mobile payments and mobile technology. Boost was one of the first to provide prepaid smartphones, and so that's something that is certainly out there. The traditional way, and you think about the great Andreessen line of software eating the world. Well, to date, software hasn't really eaten the world of walk-up bill payments. I imagine most people here probably haven't made a Western Union or a MoneyGram payment recently to pay their PG&E bill. But you can see it's old technology. There are single-purpose machines whose only focus in life is to ingest that data, and whether that's picking up the red phone in the CVS and basically announcing to everyone that you're an underserved consumer, you don't have any other options, let alone if you're a germaphobe, or whether you're writing down, trying to remember your account. There's a lot of manual processes, and as a result, there's a lot of errors that happen in paying regular bills. And that's very expensive for billers, whether those are utilities or auto lenders or property managers, to unwind those bill payments. So effectively what we've done is set up over 17,000 locations at 7-Elevens, Family Dollars, set up these cash registers on corners around the country. So it's as if when you walk into that 7-Eleven in real time up to the cash register, you're paying PG&E or you're paying your landlord, who might be across town or they might be 1,000 miles away. It doesn't really matter. But it's this notion of a real-time connection to the back-end system and a real-time authentication, because in the case of auto lending or property management, if you've initiated legal action against that consumer, you're not going to want to take the payment. So the ability to, in the same way that Visa is the canonical network for the banked consumer, PayNearMe aspires to be the canonical network for the unbanked and cash-preferring consumer. That is really the crux of what we're doing. And obviously, you think about the states, you're surprised to hear perhaps that there's 60 to 100 million Americans. There's clearly opportunities overseas as well, with a higher percentage of GDP processed in cash. So that is a little bit on PayNearMe and the cash collection network that we have built with mobile payments. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Billy. For our next presentation, we have Matt Niehaus. Matt is the CEO of InStore. Matt is a former venture capitalist at Battery Ventures and spent his early career at JP Morgan, so he knows money. In my theme here of thinking global and joking local, Matt is a recipient of the Golden Eagle Award from the Guardsmen, which really just means that he knew where to get the best deal on kegs for the Christmas tree lot here at Fort Mason. Buy your Christmas trees there if you live here locally. Thank you, everyone, and a big round of applause for Mr. Matt Niehaus. I'm not presenting you with some gifts here. One more. Matt, can you unlock this? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Revealing a few of my dark secrets. So some of you may remember a little over 10 years ago, Mark Benioff declared software was dead. And pretty much proven to be accurate in terms of how Salesforce and other cloud-based companies have executed. Well, I'm here to tell you today that POS is dead, as we know it, certainly. The market is already moving ahead. Companies are adopting mobile devices, mobile payments, other solutions that will ultimately are creating great disruption amongst POS players and really transforming the way that merchants interact with their consumers. The message we have for merchants today is don't get left behind. You can continue to do things the way you've been doing them, and we talk to merchants every day who say, hey, I've been running this cash register for 25 years, and why would I change? Life's good. Well, our answer is that's not going to work for you in a pretty short period of time. I guess I'd ask a question of this group without getting into the to's and fro's of Apple Pay, but anyone who's used that product or anything like it, Is there anyone who doesn't think they're going to be making more transactions with a mobile device in 5 years? I wouldn't expect that to be the case. So what we've built at InStore is the merchant management platform that retailers need to stay alive. And that includes back-end analytics, the ability to manage your business from anywhere. But we also give you the opportunity to thrive, because staying alive is a little bit of a Darwinian theory, but thriving in this environment is what small merchants are looking to do, and our platform enables them to do so. It's a combination of iPad-based solution in the store, iPads and iPad minis to help you operate within a retail environment, and then a cloud backend to allow you to manage that business from anywhere. So our mission is really no less than to transform retail software over the next decade. And we'll talk briefly about how we plan to do that. So our company was founded by a multi-location restaurant operator, so we really understand merchants' needs. We are rapidly focused on simplicity, ease of use, and that's actually one of our biggest differentiators in the marketplace. We are the easiest to use system out there, beautiful design, but also just great ease of use, which in a retail environment is critical because you're not dealing with IT departments and sophisticated users. We can improve our software each and every month and offer that functionality to our merchants like any cloud provider, but that's a huge advantage over traditional solutions in the marketplace. And we estimate that a typical merchant who adopts InStore can generate about $24,000 a year of incremental profit to their business, which, as you can imagine, that's per location. So you can imagine that starts to raise people's eyebrows when they see those opportunities. And then finally, as a company, we're growing about 45% quarter over quarter, and things are starting to accelerate. This gives you a little bit of sense of how we make money. We charge monthly subscriptions, and then we get residual payments on things like credit card processing and other solutions, and our growth has started to accelerate over the last couple quarters. So it's fun. I'd like to say we're past the early adopter phase of retailers adopting, some call it MPOS, mobile point of sale. As I said, we call it merchant management platforms, but it's going to be an exciting next few years. So our software does really two things for a retailer. One, we help them run more efficiently, and two, we help them increase their revenue. And to do that, that includes things like managing their employees better, handling all their orders and payments, handling reporting, as well as customer management, which is critical for interacting with your customers inside and outside the store. And we integrate any kind of off-the-shelf mobile device. So any of your smartphones will work with our back-end software. And of course, as I mentioned, it's off-the-shelf iPads that work for the in-store experience. And we help you increase revenue through things like gift cards, greater ticket sizes, promotional tools, loyalty and rewards. We'll be doing some mobile payment solutions. I mentioned Apple Pay, as well as EMV type solutions this next year. And that's actually one of the great big transition points we're at right now, between a combination of mobile payments, which are very much in the forefront of everyone's mind. Whatever you think about Apple, they've done a good job of reinvigorating that debate and gotten it back on the radar screen of merchants and consumers. But EMV, for those of you who know EMV, there's a requirement for fraud shifting or responsibility around fraud shifting in October of next year. So confluence of all those things really points to a pretty rapid adoption, in our view, of next generation solutions. And that's why I say POS is dead in the traditional sense. The traditional guys will just really struggle to keep up with those trends. And anyone who's operating on anything less than a mobile POS system or a merchant management platform will really be challenged to be successful. So last couple things, we're really a highly affordable solution, about $100 a month for a merchant to use us. And that's also helping spur adoption because they don't have to spend a ton of money to get going with InStore. So I'll just finish with a few quick data points of why this matters to a merchant. So we have a customer in New York City who saw their sales increase by 23% after switching to our platform. We had a customer sell 2,500 gift cards in 6 months. This was incredibly valuable to their cash flow and overall profitability as a business. And then after implementing our customer database software, one of our customers has already collected 27,000 names after just 8 weeks of using the system. So this becomes a really valuable marketing tool that they never had before with their legacy system, or certainly with any of the other systems out there. So that's what we do. Thanks for listening, and happy to answer any questions later on.
Thank you, Matt. And for our last startup presentation, before we go into the expert panel, we have Balaji Gopalan from Bionym. Bionym is the maker of the NIMI wearable device, and obviously could have presented in the last session, but the reason that we have him here at this session is this is a lot about authentication in the future of commerce. Bionym's president, Andrew D'Souza, actually used to work on the Rocket Space campus with his previous company, and presented recently through the Dreamforce conference because Bionym announced investments from both the Salesforce One Wearables Fund as well as MasterCard, who is up here on stage today. In the spirit of nuggets of information, if you don't know, Andrew D'Souza is the creator of a specialty drink called the D'Souza, which is a glass of Guinness with a shot of espresso in it. So hashtag D'Souza, please. So welcome to the stage, Balaji.
See, the key is you got to switch it up because Andrew's not here. Eric didn't actually know anything about me, so I got off scot-free. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Balaji. I'm from Bionym. I'll talk a little bit about what we do with the NIMI. Does work? There we go. That's me. There we go. So let's talk about a mobile-powered world. That's kind of what we're here to talk about at MEF, right? So what is mobile ubiquity in the hands of consumers, in the hands of employees, in the hands of the things around us, if you think about IoT we just saw in the last session, actually result in? Well, it results in us being more connected to the things digitally, the things physically, and to other people. So we're talking about increased transaction rates, higher productivity, higher creativity. These are all really, really good things. And that affects us both in a personal sense and in a professional sense. But there's an underlying thread amongst all of these things, and that is identity. So the problem with all of this stuff is that every time you want to do something, you have to prove who you are. And that could be a password, or it could be a key, or it could be a ticket, or a token, or a biometric transaction, or a signature, or a secret handshake, or a wink across the room. No matter what you do, you got to prove who you are. And the really funny thing about this is that nobody actually wants to do any of those things. That's actually not adding to the quality of your life. And what's worse, we're now in this world where the more you do these things, the riskier they're getting. And the answer typically is, oh, just make them harder. Let's add 4 more factors to your authentication before you can get in the house and go to the bathroom. That's not actually a good trend. And we think there's got to be a better way to think about this. So at Bionym, we're actually trying to solve what we call the identity problem. And the fundamental source of our thinking is a shift from what you might think of as transactional identity, which is proving who you are every time you want to do something, to what we call persistent identity. How about you prove who you are once, and that lasts the entire day? It leads to a really, really different way of sort of getting through life. And so our answer is, I hope this is going to work. Our answer is the NIMI band. That's our product. This is a video. I hope I can actually play this without actually having a mouse. I'm not sure I can. So this is a video that shows our vision for the world when the NIMI becomes real. There we go. So this is Steve, my buddy Steve. Steve's going to put on his NIMI band and he's going to go through his day. He gets to the car, it knows who he is. No key required. He takes his car and he goes to work. Let's see what happens when he gets to work. Sits down at his computer. Computer knows who he is. No password required. Steve's got to take a flight. So he gets to the airport. He's obviously used the NIMI to get on the plane. But this is the part I love the most. No credit card required. He'll just pay with his NIMI band. And there was no PIN or signature required either. Now he's got to check into the hotel. Of course, his iPad knows who he is. Goes to the hotel website. Doesn't have to sign in there either. In fact, the other thing that he doesn't actually need is a key to the room. But it's not just about access. It's not just about security or convenience. It's about personalization. The room actually becomes his, with his pictures, his temperature, his Netflix queue. But for this to work, we talked about this in the last session. It's about privacy and control. Users got to feel like they control it. And that's kind of our message here at the end here. It's his NIMI band. It's his world. So let's talk about how we're actually doing this. So the NIMI is part of a three-part system. The first part is digital cryptographic keys. Everything that Steve talked to is actually looking for a key from the NIMI band. It's separate from every other key. It's only used for that one thing. There's no information about him being provided, just a key. So think of the NIMI as a universal key. The second is the thing that delivers the keys. It's a wearable device. It looks like this. It's called the NIMI band. Why did we build it as a wearable when the whole world is moving to identity based on this? Simple reason. I can authenticate this thing and have it access my entire life, and somebody can take it from me, and then they have access to everything. A phone or a card or a token or something hanging off your keychain will never be able to do that. But with a wearable device, we know you haven't given it to anybody else. That allows us to do what we call persistence, which is the authentication happens only one time when you put it on. And the last is how we're actually doing authentication. So we have a unique biometric that is based on the electrical signature of your heart. That's what we use as our biometric to the wristband. That's what it looks like. It's a little piece of hardware, wearable device. It's got a couple of sensors which do the electrocardiogram reading, and then the rest of it, as you'd expect, a secure element for security. BLE, we heard about the magic of BLE in the last session. That's what we use for connectivity, and then some mechanisms to provide feedback back to the user, and a little piece of, a little wire in the wristband so we know when you've taken it off. Very quickly on the way that the product actually works. So as you can tell, there's sort of two sides to the platform. One is the process you prove you own the wristband, and the other is where the wristband's used. We have an app that goes with the NIMI band. This is all a closed system, well-defined, and basically you put it on, you stream your electrocardiogram, it creates a template that takes about 90 seconds, then you're authenticated, and then the next time you take it off, you have to re-authenticate, you put it back on, you stream your electrocardiogram again, it compares to the template, and you're authenticated again. And so we use that as the check to make sure the right person is wearing the wristband. If you don't do that, somebody else picks your NIMI band, they can't actually use it. That's the magic of what we do. So why did we pick ECG as a biometric? Well, biometric scientists have been actually chasing ECG as the golden, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for a long time, for a couple of reasons. So first of all, it is unique. Not all people realize this. The shape of the waveform emitted by your heart is as unique in the human population as a fingerprint. Secondly, it's a continuous signal. Unlike a fingerprint, which if you read it wrong, you got to get it wrong, you got to reset and try again. With an ECG, I can take a whole bunch of readings in just a couple of minutes, and I can get a match very, very quickly. This leads to a much better user experience. Almost more importantly, it's not an optical reading. So we all know fingerprints are insecure because I can actually lift your fingerprint. I can take a picture of your iris, I can take a picture of your face. This is an electrical reading from inside your body, so it's actually more secure. It's harder to spoof. So we have a patented algorithm, the world's only algorithm that does ECG-based biometrics. We developed it over 10 years out of the University of Toronto, which is sort of where we're from. Now, what can you do with the NIMI band? So this is actually a NIMI band that's authenticated to me. I'm going to show you the world's most simple demo, which is I'm going to unlock my tablet with it. If you guys can see this, this is a Windows tablet. I've got a little agent running on here that has an account tied to my NIMI band. And I'll hit that. And if the demo gods are nice to me, it'll actually sign in. But of course, they're not nice to me, are they? See, I tried it a minute ago while I was sitting there, and it worked just fine. Failed. It always fails when you're on stage. Trust me, it works. I did it 20 times today, and I did it a minute ago before I came on stage to make sure it was working. What that's doing is there's an account in here tied to a key that's associated with the NIMI band. It looks for the key and simply lets you in. What does this mean to payments? Why am I standing here in the payment session? Well, payments are all about identity. You can't actually execute a transaction unless you know who it is that's paying and who it is that's receiving money. So think about all the places where identity might actually play a role. I want to access my wallet. I want to get recommendations I want to buy. I want to split the bill with somebody else. I'd like a copy of my receipt. I'd like to report expenses. Enterprise becomes a really big deal. I'm not just paying for a cup of coffee. I'm paying to buy another building. We got to actually know who you are. And then you actually get into the world outside of payments, but in the rest of the fintech world, around banking and transactions. We have a huge amount of interest in what we're doing in there. In fact, in addition to all of this, we've made an announcement that we're going to go beyond digital keys and payments with, of course, our good friends at MasterCard. We're building the world's first biometrically authenticated wearable payment solution in advance of some other company that's been mentioned a few times today. The way this is actually going to work is we're going to add a little piece of hardware to this NAMI band and have it act exactly as a contactless credit card. No changes required at the retailer, no changes required at the POS terminal. It'll think it's talking to a card. What's the difference between this and a card in your wallet? I can take your card from your wallet. But with this thing, it's actually only going to work when the wristband is authenticated on my wrist. Apart from that, it works exactly like a contactless credit card. So we're doing this as a trial with, of course, MasterCard and some of the issuing banks in Canada because we have a good amount of contactless infrastructure there, and we're doing this year. So that's it. That's the NAMI band we're shipping this year. Everybody else talked a little bit about their company, so I'll talk a little bit about mine. We're 43 people based in Toronto. We are shipping this year, and we have several developers building on our platform all around the world in every vertical you could possibly think of, anything from getting on a bus to unlocking a computer to social applications, payments, enterprise, because identity is everywhere and nobody likes passwords because they all suck. Thank you very much.